Hello and welcome to our Lent Reading series of 2023, considering people who encountered Jesus. Today it's day 11 and we're going to continue what we've been looking at in the last few days of people who met Jesus when they were in need. And today that person is Peter's mother-in-law. In Matthew 8 we read that Peter has a mother-in-law and therefore Peter was married. I don't know if you've ever thought about the fact that the 12 disciples were not necessarily all single men. Though this might be the only hint of this in the Gospels, if we read 1 Corinthians 9 verse 5, Paul confirms this by defending the rights of the apostles by saying, "Don't we have the right to take a believing wife along with us, as do the other apostles and the Lord's brothers and Cephas?" Cephas is the Aramaic name for Peter. So Peter was married. And we can also assume from the fact that Peter's mother-in-law seems to be living with Peter, that by this time she was a widow. Anyway, let's read the account, which is only 2 verses long in Matthew 8. So we're going to include the following verse as well, starting from verse 14. When Jesus came into Peter's house, he saw Peter's mother-in-law lying in bed with a fever. He touched her hand and the fever left her, and she got up and began to wait on him. When evening came, many who were demon-possessed were brought to him, and he drove out the spirits with a word and healed all the sick. In the last 2 readings, all from Matthew 8, we've encountered a leper and a centurion with a sick servant in Capernaum. Now, at the end of the day, having preached the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus enters Peter's house, ready to rest. And what he finds is Peter's mother-in-law is sick. We do not know what illness she had, only the description given that she had a fever. We do not know how serious this was, other than the detail that says she was confined to bed. But what it does say is that Jesus saw her, went over to her, held her hand, and healed her. And she immediately got up and began to serve. In the society and culture of that time, there was an accepted hierarchy of importance. At the top of the list would have been the religious leaders, all men, and then the rest of the Jewish men who were devoted to keeping the law. But at the other end of the spectrum, you'd find those who were least regarded. That would include Gentiles, non-Jews, lepers, and women. Jesus turns the order of importance upside down as he responds to the needs of those around him. Consider who he has interacted with in the last few readings. All from the start of Matthew, a leper, a Gentile in the form of the Roman centurion, his servant who would almost certainly have also been a Gentile, a woman whose status would have been lowered further by the fact that she was a widow. No matter how insignificant you may feel, or how unimportant you consider yourself as part of society or even within the church, Jesus still regards you as worthy of his attention. When he called you to follow, he knew what he was doing because he had all the facts before him, and he still chose you. Note what happens in that verse that follows immediately after this story, verse 16. When evening came, many who were demon-possessed were brought to him, and he drove out the spirits with a word and healed all the sick. Remember, this had happened at the end of a busy day of teaching on a mountainside. Even after the most tiring of days, Jesus still made the time to minister to those who needed him, whoever they were. I doubt he just made a queue and went past them going, "Be healed, be healed, be healed." No, he would have spent time with each one, because each one was valuable to him, just as you and me are. Until next time, have a blessed day.